Okay, we're going to move on to the main event for the prelims, right, on ESPN. And this is going to be a welterweight bout between Anthony Pettis and Cowboy Cerrone. Now, Cowboy is obviously riding a losing streak. He's lost to Conor McGregor. He's lost to, I have it written down, Justin Gaethje, and then Tony Ferguson before that. So, I mean, all to the top guys in the division, right? Like, I don't think you're going to argue that any of those guys aren't top five. But it makes you a little bit nervous, man. I mean, knocked out pretty brutally, too, against Gaethje and against Conor. I mean, those are hard knockouts. And, like, the fight against Tony, he probably could have kept fighting. But, you know, the whole swollen eye shit. So, this is a rematch, too, right? And these guys fought a long time ago. And Anthony Pettis kind of switched off to the southpaw stance. And if you go watch that fight, Joe Rogan called it perfectly. Like, Pettis switched off to the southpaw stance and started firing kicks to that body. And that's what ended up ending the fight. Like, he saw the opening there, and he had the power kick coming from the left-hand side, and he was just driving it into the fucking side of Cowboy Cerrone, like into his ribs. And it eventually ended up ending the fight, right? And Cowboy's been susceptible to the body before, especially because of all that fucking shit that he had going on with his, like, guts. I don't know what the fuck happened. Didn't he have, like, a certain amount of, like, length of his intestines removed or some shit like that? So, like, people know that about him. And to me, like, the biggest difference in this fight between these two fighters is that Cowboy is probably going to I don't mean to say that Cowboy's not creative. Please don't take this the wrong way. Like, but I do think, like, Cowboy's creative in how he sets things up and how he gets his combinations, like the combination that he landed on, I think it was like Rick's story, right? Beautiful, gorgeous. I mean, the way he set it up, can't say that's not creative, but Anthony Pettis is much more willing to try wild and spontaneous things, I guess, in the octagon, and just there's more variety and there's more flash to what he does. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference maker in this fight. I think that Pettis' creativity will throw Cowboy off. Like, it's going to just be, he's going to overwhelm him with possibilities, whereas Cowboy is going to rely on the, like, coming forward, throwing classic Muay Thai, like, kickboxing combinations and trying to set, like, he's trying to set a clean combination up, whereas Anthony Pettis will launch off the fucking cage or do, like, axe kicks and rolling thunder. Not literally, you know what I mean, though. He'll pull crazy shit out of his ass. And it lands, and I think that that's going to give Cowboy some trouble, and it'll confuse him. I think that's why you kind of saw him get confused against the shoulder strikes of Conor. Like, he looked almost confused when it hit him. Obviously, he's rock, right? He broke his fucking orbital bone. But, like, I think that Cowboy just relies on a much more traditional path to success. Now, another interesting thing that we might see in this fight is a ground war, because both of these guys have very slept-on jiu-jitsu. Donald Cerrone, I'm going to give the advantage to him in wrestling. I'm going to give the jiu-jitsu advantage, believe it or not, to Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis is so fucking good off his back. I mean, the way he sets things up is like, if you look at the fucking, I think he hit him with an armbar, maybe an armbar triangle. Again, I can't remember off the top of my head. But when he tapped Chiesa out from the bottom, I mean, he tapped Benson Henderson out from the bottom with the armbar. I mean, Anthony Pettis' jiu-jitsu is fucking solid. Rock solid. And people forget about it because he's so advanced on the feet and so threatening up there. Right now, all that I think it'll be hard for Anthony Pettis to tap Cowboy because his ground game is so solid. I think you might see a lot of really interesting transitions if it goes there. But one thing to keep in mind about Anthony Pettis, and this has kind of been the, like, I hate to say this about a fighter because I'm not a fighter. I don't go in there and I don't do it. Like, I don't go into the octagon and strap the gloves up and, like, go through that whole entire process. I can't even imagine how fucking stressful it all is, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying that I have the balls to do it, right? But you can kind of break Anthony Pettis mentally, it seems. Like Tony Ferguson, Poirier, RDA. Like, when you start running through him and really just putting heavy pressure on him, he doesn't have the space in a similar way to Uriah Hall, right? Like, he needs space to be his most creative and his most effective. Cowboy has to eliminate that space a little bit, and just like it's okay to keep things like there's nothing wrong with keeping like a traditional, like, kickboxing or Muay Thai style, right? When you're fighting a guy like Pettis, I think Cowboy probably leans a little more towards kickboxing style. Like, as opposed to Muay Thai. But I think that the way you beat Pettis is you got to put pressure on him, man. And Cowboy has to keep the volume coming. And he can't really be waiting on things from Pettis because that's where Pettis is going to start to find the openings and the holes. He's really good at exploiting those. And when he starts getting his timing and things start happening on, Pettis is someone needs to do a case study on Pettis because there will be fights where like I would love to know what's going on in his mind because there will be fights where Anthony Pettis fights and I go, man, you're not going to be able to beat this fucking guy. Like when he gets into a zone and he gets into a rhythm, he is one of the biggest problems in the UFC. No doubt about it. Anthony Pettis is like my definition of a rhythm fighter. When he gets going, good luck, man. I mean, see, I know it doesn't happen all the time, but you can just tell that when he gets into that zone, he's in a place that other guys just aren't, right? Like I said, caveat there is that you can sometimes get – I don't know if he mentally – I don't know what's going on in there, man. I'm not there. I'm not him, and I don't want to accuse him. But I bring this question up all the time. Had the position been reversed and Tony Ferguson broke his hand, do you think Tony Ferguson would have even brought it up to his corner? I think he just would have fought through it. I mean, that's my personal take on it. That's what I mean, though. Like, I'm not doing it to be disrespectful to Anthony, and I'm certainly not saying that, like, I would want to be in a cage against Tony Ferguson with a broken hand. Not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that there are guys like Tony Ferguson out there that don't give a fuck. So, Cowboy needs pressure. He needs constant volume, and he needs to, if you let Pettis get into a rhythm, it's going to be a long night for Cowboy or a quick night, meaning that he's going to get finished or he's going to get a clinic put on him, man. Pettis is that good, but it's all about disrupting the rhythm. If Cowboy disrupts the rhythm, I think he has a chance to win. And if Pettis is able to get into a rhythm, I think he's going to make it look fairly easy. So we'll see. I'm officially going to take Pettis by decision, or maybe I could see him finishing Cowboy as well. I don't think he'll tap him out. I think he could knock him out. Yeah, and if Cowboy is going to win this fight, pressure, volume. Like, you got to keep the gas on, man. And you might get Pettis to weather a little bit, right? Whittle, whatever the fucking word is.